morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Dear Prime Minister Zaev, dear Prime Minister Kurti, distinguished representatives, colleagues, partners, and friends. It is my sincere pleasure to welcome you here to the Socio-Ecological Forum here in Skopje. We called it a forum the citizens. This is why we put it is just a question whether
лично што се залагаат за работење во оваа сфера, туку дека и реално тоа ќе го направат на терен и дека сето ова нема да заврши само со еден ваков настан, туку дека во периодот што следи сите заедно ќе придонесеме максимално да ги ублажиме последиците од глобалното затоплување. И посакувам искрено добре дојде на сите, посакувам успешен форум денес во Скопје и се надевам дека и во скора следна прилика повторно ќе можеме да се дружиме и да дискутираме на вакви теми. Ви благодарам.
Good morning. Good morning. Dobro jutro. And welcome to the first and opening session of the Socio-Ecological Forum Skopje. My name is Hanna Sokolovic. I will be moderating this session, and I greet you all and thank you for being here with us today. Today we will be discussing the European Green Deal and the Green Agenda for the Western Balkans. We hope to have strong participation of all of you sitting here today, but also of you who are watching us through Zoom. Now, just a quick technical note before I introduce our opening speakers. Translation is available both live and to those of you who are watching us through Zoom. Now I would like to invite the Prime Minister of North Macedonia, Mr. Zoran Zaev, to address our participants.
Thank you very much. Почитувани присутни, почитуван премиер и мои пријатели Албин Курти, премиер на Република Косово, почитувани организатори на Социо-Еколошкиот форум, почитувани гости од целиот Западен Балкан од регионот, почитувани пратеници од други парламенти кои што се денеска со нас, почитувани пратеници од нашиот македонски парламент, дами и господа. На почетокот сакам да упатам благодарност до организаторите на Социо-Еколошкиот форум и тоа до канцеларијата на фондацијата Фридрих Еберт во Скопје, Меѓународниот центар Олоф Палме и Прогрес Институтот за социјална демократија. Нивната намера да не соберат денеска сите нас тука да разговараме, да размениме мислење за чиста и зелена иднина за сите граѓани од Западен Балкан е благородна идеја. Особено е значајна што овој форум е почетната точка од која треба да произлезат предлози и иницијативи за одлучни акции против последиците од климатските промени и неодржливи фосилни извори на енергија како најсериозни закани за животната средина, а со тоа и за нашата социоекономска иднина. Во двата мандата на владата што ја предводам е една од нашите централни заложби, почнувајќи од 2017 година, е да ги поставиме енергетските политики во Република Северна Македонија на стабилни, долгорочни основи, базирани на чиста, зелена енергија, за да се овозможат услови за одржлив раст на економијата, на нашата држава, здрава животна средина и нови работни места. Нашиот нов закон за енергетика е целосно усогласен со Европската Унија, со регулативата, како и со енергетската заедница и овозможува реализација на новата стратегија за развој на енергетиката до 2040 година и националниот план за клима и енергија. Еден од основните принципи на работа на владата е тоа што е зацртано во стратегиите и плановите бргу да биде претворено во реални проекти и во конкретни акции. Токму поради ова донесовме нова легислатива, усогласивме со европските директиви, како нов начин на поддршка на инвестициите во фотонапонските централи и во ветерниците. Тоа веднаш беше препознаено од страна на домашните и странските инвеститори, кои веќе ги завршуваат своите фотонапонски електрани, добиени на првите транспарентни и конкурентни постапки за доделување преку процесот на премиуми. Ние сме земја на сонцето, тоа сите го знаат. За жал, во минатото тоа не било искористено соодветно, меѓутоа сега, во последните 4 години, во фаза на градба се огромен број на капацитети. Како што реков, со премиумите реализираме проекти вредни 30 милиони евра, фотонапонски централи, вкупно 62 мегавати. Во Осломеј, на местото на стариот јаглено-коп, реализираме 110 мегавати фотоволтаици. 10 мегавати сами како држава и 2 пати по 50 мегавати по пат на јавно-приватно партнерство. Вкупната вредност е 67 милиони евра. Овде во овој проект условот за реализација беше по еден вработен од мегават да мора да преземат приватните инвеститори кои што сакаат да ги реализират ваквите мегавати на фотонапонски централи. Значи 100 вработени одат директно од досегашната јагленова централа во управувањето со новите фотонапонски централи. Имаме на 3 локации низ државата во Богданци, Свети Никола и Демиркапија по 36 мегавати ветерници, 108 мегавати, кои што ги завршија сите постапки за одобрение за градба со урбанистички планови, експроприации на земјишта и веќе се во почеток на градба. На стариот аеродром во Штип реализираме 360 мегавати со француска компанија, фотонапонски централи, проект вреден 200 милиони евра. Со германска компанија во областа на Куманово, Крива Паланка и Старо Нагоричане реализираме 415 мегавати ветерници, проект вреден 500 милиони евра. Правиме трансформација на термоелектраната Неготино, ТЕЦ Неготино, од мазут на природен газ, а во иднина на хидроген, од 220 мегавати, проект вреден 60 милиони евра. Митилинеос, грчката фирма, ги заврши сите постапки за воспоставување на втора гасна централа овде во Скопје, проект вреден 100 милиони евра, од 110 мегавати со топловодна мрежа за покривање на 1/3 од главниот град. Во Александрополи, во Грција, влеговме како земја во проект вреден 600 милиони евра, каде што се гради голем гасен терминал на LNG или Liquid Natural Gas, но и 800 мегаватна гасна централа, во која што Северна Македонија ќе учествува со 25%. Во Штип, во областа Три Чешми, во моментот се преговара за нови 450 мегавати фотонапонски централи, проект вреден 280 милиони евра. Во Битола, на местото на трите блока на јаглен, каде што во моментот се произведува 72% од нашата енергија, планирано е да се изгради 2 пати по 200 мегавати гасна централа и дополнително 160 мегавати фотонапонска централа, директно за згрижување на вработените од јаглените централи во новите извори на енергија. Еден од најголемите проекти е Чебрен со Орлов мост, проект вреден 700 милиони евра. Влегуваме во завршна фаза од втората фаза и последна фаза на избор на партнер на државата. Се работи за хидроцентрала до 350 мегавати, каде што поминаа 9 огромни европски и светски компании со кои што во моментот се преговара. Обезбедивме дополнителна локација од 50 мегавати во областа Миравци на грчко-македонската граница. Истовремено, подпишавме договор со Европската делегација и со Европската банка за обнова и развој за Just Transition или праведна транзиција, каде што треба дополнително да направиме напори за да сите кои што во периодот до 2030 година со конечното затварање на гасните централи во нашата земја, кои што ќе останат без работа, да бидат згрижени и да бидат навистина соодветно распоредени. Ова е пример и за останатите земји во регионот на Западен Балкан и Југоисточна Европа. Со помош на Европската делегација во Скопје, навистина работиме на диагноза на праведна транзиција на јаглените региони во Северна Македонија, која треба да биде и економски и од социјален аспект со успешни резултати. Во меѓувреме не чекаме и го чекориме патот на исполнување на зелениот договор на Европската Унија за заеднички да ја исполниме зацртаната цел. Таа е цел и наша и на Европската Унија. Деновиве донесовме исто така закон за стратешки инвестиции за големите инвеститори, да ја препознаат заложбата на владата и да бидат похрабри во донесувањето на одлуките за инвестирање во Република Северна Македонија. Секој што ќе инвестира над 50 милиони евра, посебно во обновливите извори на енергија, има можност да постигне спогодба директно со владата и таа спогодба оди во парламентот, која што се преточува во закон и со тоа се добива брза трака за реализација на самата инвестиција. Сето ова во однос на инвестициите е резултат на нашата стратегија за развој на енергетиката до 2040 година. Нашата посветеност кон зелената агенда предвидува имплементација на програмата Праведна транзиција, која што ни е севкупна водилка во сите овие огромни мегаломански проекти, кои што треба да донесат нови извори на енергија за Северна Македонија, за целиот регион и за европскиот континент, но пред се водејќи грижа за аспектот на работниците и вработените во досегашните комбинати. За овие наши активности Европската заедница јавно ги пофали сите наши напори, успеси и посветеност за сето тоа што е направено досега во енергетскиот сектор, бидејќи сме прва земја на Западен Балкан која што го стори сето тоа. Ова за нас е показател дека добро сме ги сработиле реформите, сме ја донеле потребната легислатива и сме создале услови за инвестирање. Тоа е суштината на постојањето на владите и администрацијата, да создаваат фер услови за инвеститорите, да создаваат нови работни места и да создаваат здрава животна средина со безбедна иднина. Почитувани, во услови на здравствено-економска криза предизвикана од COVID-19, покрај справување со ефектите од пандемијата, владата и економските ресори прават максимални заложби и ја следат состојбата во што најмногу се вложува во светот. Токму енергетиката и енергетската ефикасност заедно со дигитализацијата и сите други високи современи технологии се иднината на развојот. Дополнително, во чекор со нашите заложби и осогласување на регулативата со Европската Унија, го донесовме и новиот закон за енергетска ефикасност, кој возможува реализација на потребните инвестиции и мерки во областа на енергетската ефикасност, следејќи ги сите позитивни примери од земјите на Европската Унија и регионот, како енергетската ефикасност донесува корист на повеќе нивоа, како за граѓаните, така и за економијата воопшто. Од тој аспект можеме да се пофалиме дека првите возила на хидроген за чистење на улици и јавно чистоќа се токму произведуваат во Република Северна Македонија и се извезуваат на секаде по светот. Градиме огромна инфраструктура вредна 140 милиони евра за хидроген и за природен газ, каде што работиме на интерконекторот со Грција, а правиме физибилити студија со Република Косово и со Република Србија. Исто така, по 10 милиони евра годишно инвестираме во инвертер клими, за да ги откажеме нашите граѓани од загревање и системите на загревање со фосилни горива. Сите јавни институции презедоа обврска до 2025 година да поминат на газ или инвертор клими или други извори обновливи на енергија. На 80 објекти, училишта, детски градинки и слично се поставени фотонапонски централи. Стартувавме со проектот за енергетска ефикасност со Светска банка вреден 25 милиони евра и развиваме огромен број на проекти со кои што работиме паралелно и на енергетската ефикасност. Сакам да напоменам, и со тоа ќе завршам, пред нас се бројни предизвици, национални и регионални, кога станува збор за приклучувањето кон глобалната енергетска транзиција. Новите технологии во обновливите извори, енергетската ефикасност, гасификацијата на но тоа се секако неизбежни инвестициски процеси кои носат бенефит на долг рок. Затоа веќе ги направивме првите сериозни чекори во таа насока. Примената на обновливите извори на енергија и енергетската ефикасност паралелно се дел од рамката на реализацијата на Зелениот договор на Европската Унија, кој има јасна цел – климатски неутрална и поотпорна Европа до 2050 година. И нашата земја го поддржува Европскиот зелен договор за одржлива економија преку претварање на климатските и еколошките предизвици во можности и правење на транзиција праведна и инклузивна. Благодарам на сите и останувам денеска на располагање да учествувам во сите овие дискусии, секако и за сите ваши прашања. Благодарам.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, please join us on the middle seat. Just a quick note, please, even though we all love to hear a beautiful ringtone, turn down your ringtones. Don't be the person we will all look and judge if your phone rings. Thank you. I would now like to invite Mr. Albin Kurti, the Prime Minister of Kosovo, to make his opening statements.
Dear Prime Minister of the Republic of North Macedonia, Mr. Zoran Zaev, dear organizers of this important and timely event, Friedrieber Stiftung, Olof Palme International Center, and Progress Institute, dear representatives of government and parliament, ladies and gentlemen, dear participants, in 1962, for President John Kennedy, the mission was clear. The United States had to go to the moon, not because it was easy, but because it was hard. When saying those words, Kennedy knew that given the circumstances, there was no other choice. So, because there was no choice, the hard part had to be done. Today we find ourselves in a similar situation. Climate change is a fact, and it threatens not only our generation, but generations to come and even the planet itself. We have no choice. We must act today, and even though it's hard, we must drastically reduce pollution. This requires hard and painful choices. It's especially hard because we have to change the way we do business. Unprecedented floods, heat waves, and droughts have made it clear that the ecosystem cannot be treated independently from our economic system. We need a new sustainable economic model that leads our countries towards social and ecological progress and improves the well-being of people and delivers social and economic justice. A new sustainable economic model that respects ecological boundaries and limits of our planet. The European Green Deal seeks to put Europe on the path of ecological transition, sustainable inclusive growth, and prosperity. Such a transition for Europe can only be effective if actions are taken in our region too. The European Union has already presented the Green Agenda for the region, which envisages the European Green Deal. But a Green Agenda requires that we make far-reaching changes to our economy and our way of life. The circular economy, one of the main building blocks of the Green Agenda for the Western Balkans, is a tool that can lead us towards sustainable economic growth, help us with decarbonization, further optimize energy and transport systems, and finally generate new jobs. In my government, we have taken action to develop a circular economic model in order to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions, preserve our biodiversity, build a sustainable food system, and deal with our deeply rooted structural problems in agriculture. This model will also reduce, reuse, and manage our waste and develop new clean industries and new jobs. Energy production and intra-city transport remain our biggest contributors to our greenhouse gas emissions and also lead to the pollution of our cities. This affects the health of our citizens with premature deaths and poor quality of life. There is no question whether we should transition, but when and how. It is important that the model we will choose will be socially just, inclusive, and doesn't slow our economic growth and development. We need strong social floor and solid environmental roof for our home in which we dwell and live. Kosovo generates its energy mainly from coal, with very limited amounts coming from hydropower and wind. Hydropower has not proven to be environmentally friendly in Kosovo, and for now we unfortunately rely on coal. Transitioning from coal to gas, despite having a smaller impact in emissions, it is a shift from one fossil fuel to another. One we have for one which we don't. In that case, we would have to do the transition twice. This week, we just became 6 months old in the government, and that's why we are still conducting a feasibility study about how to move forward best for us and the region. I want to reiterate that we are fully committed to pursuing a clean energy transition and invest in renewables such as wind and solar, and in energy efficiency by remodeling our homes. But we need some time, and especially financial support, so that this process doesn't interrupt the economic growth which lifts our people out of poverty. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Kurti, please join the chair here. These were encouraging messages and have shown that there is progress already being made in the countries of the Western Balkans. We'll keep discussing this topic. As Prime Minister Zaev said, we have a bit less than 3 decades until 2050, when the goal is to make Europe a climate neutral continent. How to achieve this goal without leaving anyone behind? What is the role of Social Democrats? What is the role of the European Union, and should it be more present? Is this an opportunity to strengthen our economies? And many other questions will be answered by our panelists. So now I would like to invite more of them to join me here on stage. I would like to introduce Mr. Adnan Dibrani, Member of Parliament from the Swedish Social Democratic Worker Party. Please join. Knut Fleckenstein,
polluting industry, which will suffer from some measures, from the green transition, and will do everything possible to slow down the pace, because it's cost. And then we come in this connection also to the point, which is a social democratic core point, that to be green is nice, but to be green without a job is not nice. And the pure green, sometimes accusation, we are not fast enough, just dealing with environment, but not dealing with the social consequences, that can't be our policy. So we have two parts, not against us, but competing with us. The one, the conservatives who say, well, don't overdo it, it's a lot of cost for the industry, the profit will be slowed down and so on. And the others who say, hurry up, do more, so far so right, but not thinking about the consequences. Yes, shut down all your coal mines and it will be nicer, better pollution in the air, but you will have thousands and thousands of unemployed people who don't know how to feed their children. And this is not the solution for social democrats. We have to bring it together, and we should do that. We should continue on that path. Shall I stop here or shall I continue? Or do you give me a second chance later?
You will have a second chance as well,
Good.
but you can have 13 more seconds if you like.
30 more?
Yes.
No, I keep it for later.
Thank you for the 30 seconds, and thank you for your answer, Mr. Fleckenstein. Now, I would like us to see Mrs. Johanna Juselius, who is joining us through Zoom, as I've said already. We have spoke about the economic aspect of this story. We have heard about the political will and the political dynamics that need to happen in order to fulfill all of the goals that are set up until 2050. But the question that I have for Mrs. Juselius, whether this is a realistic time frame, you know, less than 3 decades. We know that coal is still fundamental to the energy sector in the Western Balkans, accounting for around 70% of electricity produced in the region. We keep mentioning the just transition. Now, is a bit less than 30 years enough to provide this just transition and to meet the standards that the European Union expects Western Balkans to meet?
First of all, thank you for this opportunity to give some comments from the Finnish viewpoint and based on our experiences, which hopefully will give examples and indication to your process. Just briefly to give the setting, Finland is going to be carbon neutral by 2035. And according to our government program, we want to be a carbon neutral welfare state. And we just finished our budget debate earlier this month, and the government agreed on exact measures to ensure that Finland will be carbon neutral by 2035. And we agreed on emission reductions of about 14 to 15 megatons of carbon dioxide equivalent. And this, together with the land use sector that's adopted later this fall, will get us to this target. So we are doing significant investments in economical renewal and the green transitions. And just for the energy sector in this debate this month, we put around 453 million. And the focus on this sector is to help the transition to renewable energies. And about the investment which was mentioned, it's crucial that the public's putting in the investment, but the private investment is equally or even more important. And the question here we find is how to match these funds together, how to get these investments work towards the same direction. And about the speed, I would say that we have an example from transport sector, because transport for us has been one of the key issues in meeting the target. And last year, it was estimated by our National Technology Center that in 2030, there would be 350,000 electric vehicles on our roads this year. A year later, the estimation had to be adjusted because the figure now is 600,000 electric vehicles. So last year's estimation, where we assumed that we would have 350,000 electric cars on our roads, changed in a year as part of this large transition to green technologies, green sectors, and it doubled. It's now 600,000 electric vehicles. And what we can do as government is obviously to boost this transition by tracking the kind of egg and hen situation, and to make sure that we provide infrastructure for charging of these vehicles as well. And it's not just a question of one measure. When it comes to transport, we need a mixture of several different actions that will get us to our target. And the same we see is with the energy sector, because Finland also still uses coal, though it has made a law that makes it it has to be stopped by 2029. So there's still a few years left for those companies that use coal to transform and change into different energy sources. But already we see that the early adopters are the ones that are winning, because we have around 170 municipalities that use district heating, but around 70% of those use biological energy sources such as biogas, waste heat, and others. And then there's one issue relating to fossil energy as well, and that's the market price, because we can see that the market price for coal and other fossil energy sources has recently risen a lot, and that put together with the emissions trading system will actually make it an expensive source of energy compared to the renewable energy sources. So we can see here that there are issues that markets will force companies to take into account, and then there are other instruments that the governments can use. But the governments themselves only cannot direct money markets, but it can help by strategy, aids, taxation, regulation, and other mechanisms that governments have to make this transition as positive as possible for citizens and for companies. So that example taken into account, and considering the timeline ahead, I could see that there are positive scenario possible ahead. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Juselius. Now back to you, Mr. Zaev, and the question of the European Union and its role. Considering that in the whole region, in the North Macedonia as well, the public trust in the EU is not getting higher. On the opposite, it's getting lower, and it might be due to the dynamics of integration, it might be to the expectations that the EU has for the region. However, the green agenda that we are speaking of is something that will provide primarily, let's name it, local benefit, will provide progress of the countries which it's happening in, but something that is as well the interest, an obvious interest of the European Union to happen. Because as Adnan said, if one place does do it, but the other doesn't, it's basically not good enough for everyone. So what are the necessary steps that need to be taken towards the public to raise their trust in this idea and to motivate, because without the citizens, without the society, politicians and political structures cannot do this themselves. Is there resistance to ideas that are perceived as primarily EU ideas in North Macedonia?
Thank you for the question. First of all, I think that that is not an issue where Europe push us or, I don't know, try to put us in the same line, in the same pipe for the future. No. It's, of course, our obligation. It's something what we feel it, because it's normally have a global aspect. We need to protect all together our planet, but directly impact to our children, our citizens, our people. In this direction, I think that we can learn a lot from European Union countries, mainly from the Nordic countries, for example, but also Germany, France, and other countries who develop good technologies, who have good experience and can be implemented here. But I think also the Western Balkans will be better than some of the European countries in this direction. I mention that because really we have our potential. Sun rising here is very good. Even now we became north, but still it's south. It's very, it's very sunny, but that count a lot of sunny days. A lot of sunny days here in the Western Balkans mean a better productivity of photovoltaics. The investment is the same here or in Sweden or in Germany, but the productivity is better here because of better sunny days in ours. Having that in mind, really we can do a lot. Of course, the challenges are with what to balance all these renewables. Because you have sun during the day, doesn't have sun during the night. You have wind part of the day you don't have it. So you need to balance. Probably after 10, 15 years, the hydrogen will be competitive and useful. And that is clear renewable. But until that, we need to do it with that what we have it. Small potentials of hydrocentrals, especially those who are environmental friendly, we will use it for sure. Those who are not, of course, it's not useful. Even there is a big quantum or capacity of water. If it's bad for the environment, it's not useful. But of course, the world talk about natural gas. For Europeans, all of us, natural gas is not so renewable. For United States, it's renewable, but it's still hydrogen. But it's still fossil inside. And we are aware that we need to bypass all this period of time for balancing of energy. As I mentioned it, in the moment are building or under agreement more than 1,600 megawatt of photovoltaics only in small country North Macedonia, and more than 600 megawatt of windmills. Comparing with the capacity what we have it now, that is 700 megawatt, we have coal thermal plant, and we need to close it till 2030. We take obligation, not because somebody ask us or somebody push us or we have agreement, because of our responsibility. So in this direction, all these 1,600 megawatt photovoltaics and 600 megawatt windmills, what we have agreement until now, we need to balance with something. To push energy where is no enough sun or there is no wind. And even sometimes you don't have wind 7 days. And the households and the economy need to use it. So we will do that with biomass, biogas, of course, with hydro centrals, but also with natural gas, because we need it to have, following the situation of more and more energy for everybody. But what is the real discussion for me in this socio-economic forum today? It's a reality that we, social democrats, here in the region must be leaders of that. I think all around the world, all around the European Union, but especially here in the region. Why? Because, as our friend Flankenstein mentioned it, it's not only to have green agenda. If you don't take care about workers, if you don't take care about jobs, and of course, children of our generations. In this direction, we started, and I think that we are a good example. I want to share that with you. The old mine in one of the coal thermal plant in North Macedonia, near to Kičevo, Oslomej, we closed it. And in this field, we announced public-private partnership for investment of photovoltaics, because it's big field, we can use it, we have grid, we have station, trafo station to receive the energy. But the condition was, those who want to invest in that need to take one employer per megawatt. For 100 megawatt, they take 100 workers, because we need to close it, the old coal plant. And after that, the second condition was how much they will give to the state, because of the land, grid connection, etc. We get it 18.5%. It's a complete private investment. One company from Bulgaria take it 50 megawatt, one company from Turkey taking 50 megawatt. Now they are in the process of getting permits. That is the message, that we need to take care of the workers, because they know to work in energy departments. First, it's good to use them for renewables, to protect the family, to protect the jobs normally, and we will continue in this direction. And that must be done by Social Democrats. That is not only agenda for the Green parties. Yes, it's mainly our agenda, Social Democrats, because we take care. We take care how to dance with the new aspects of requirements of the 21st century, normally, responsibility, but the global and whole responsibility. And I think the Balkan will be a good example for everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Zaev. You're absolutely right. You, Social Democrats, do have the responsibility and the role to be the leaders in this process. First of all, no one else is doing it. And second of all, you are the ones who need to ensure the just transition we are constantly mentioning. Now, a question for you, Mr. Kurti. How to lead in the context of the political leadership that you need to take, how to lead the process regarding the air pollution, which is one of the biggest one of the most significant problems in the Western Balkans, especially in Kosovo and Bosnia and Herzegovina as well. The European Union is already funding projects to combat this problem, but then a lot needs to be done on the inside as well, because political will is not enough to reduce air pollution. A lot of money is needed, and a lot of cooperation with the society and with the citizens are needed. How to achieve the solution of this problem?
Definitely, we need to tackle massively the issue of air pollution. And to this end, I believe that decarbonization is necessary but not sufficient. We need depollution, because depollution implies decarbonization but is not limited to that. We have open landfills, we have methane, we have so many other ways how our environment is being ruined and how air is being polluted. In particular, during winter in Kosovo, when cold weather and fog turns into smog because of the air pollution, and also the number of deaths increases, and of people who get chronic lung diseases. And this is a big cost for our healthcare system, which is not in the best shape anyway. 53% of air pollution in Kosovo, unfortunately, comes from households burning coal. 53%. So there is more air pollution in Kosovo due to households burning coal than due to two thermal power plants that we have, namely Kosovo A and Kosovo B. One is old 60 years, the other is old 40 years. We need approximately production capacity of 1 gigawatt, 1,000 megawatts, and we want to phase out coal as soon as possible. But we know that it cannot happen within a few years. We have to do everything. We need help for that. We need to restructure our economy. We want to adhere to green agenda, hopefully with green jobs within the green agenda. But at the same time, we need energy efficiency. Energy efficiency, I believe, is something that should be our top priority. As long as we have households burning coal, we have to go to the homes of the people and help them. On the other hand, we have to take care of many aspects when we do feasibility study, either for energy policy in general or for partial sectors. Namely, we have to check consumer affordability, then financial sustainability of the sector. We need, as much as possible, diversification of both, of energy sources and suppliers. Then we need compliance with acquis communautaire, and a sort of what has been already mentioned by Mr. Fleckenstein, or sort of national consensus on energy policy. Because when it comes to energy policy, you cannot make small mistakes. You can make only big mistakes. For example, for over 2 decades in the Republic of Kosovo since liberation, no government made big decisions. And now we are 6 months in office only, and it is being imposed on us to make a decision for the next more than 2 decades. That's why we have to take into consideration all these aspects, because for 2-3 decades to decide, you need at least national consensus. I want to mention one last thing, that we need also to have a balance between democracy and science. On one hand, we need scientific facts to take into consideration when we make political decisions, but also we have to work with the people, because there is democratic will, democratic representation. There is subjectivity, agency of citizens of the Republic. So there should not be democracy without science, but neither science without democracy. And we look forward to do the optimal combination of the two.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Korti. What you said, that one of the main reasons, the biggest contribution to the pollution during the winter are household heating systems, which are inadequate. Nobody uses them because they like to. People use them because they have to, and that's why the social aspect of the story is as important as any other. Thank you for this answer. We will go with another round of questions. Please limit your answers up to 3 minutes, because we have a lot more to do in the next 45 minutes. Mrs. Euselius, you are still here with us through Zoom. I would like to ask you, now, we hear that there is a lot of work in front of the countries of the Western Balkans. What can the European Union do to help and support these processes towards the ecological transformation?
Thank you. I will take a slightly bureaucratic view on this, which hopefully you would find of some use. Again, as an example from Finland, our national climate and energy policies are agreed on a national level, and they are very much in line with the European goals. So we welcome the European Green Deal and then generally what is being presented in the Fit for 55 package. But when we have a national agreement on the government level on a strategic goal, which is in line with the European goal, we can set targets as to how to achieve them. So therefore, we have a linear process on different sectors and how to reach them. And as was mentioned before, which I find very important, is the knowledge-based political decision making. Because when we have knowledge that is supporting us, it will help us in making decisions longer term, and it will need to have some kind of a free way, because when you need to adjust, as in this field is most likely, then when you have new scientific information, you would then take it and use it. And it also makes it easier to discuss the changes with the citizens. And especially important then is to have the facts to support you, and to have the kind of larger, broader shoulders to support you on a strategic level as well. So these kind of steps might sound bureaucratic, but they are extremely helpful. And when it comes to the European Union and its tools it has in these negotiations, I have to say I don't present the European Union, so I'm probably not the best person to give any further advice that I think already is available for the highly distinguished people present in this forum and in this panel. Thank you.
Thank you. Hearing the experiences and the good practices are always good advices for these paths. Mr. Fleckenstein, a question for you and a second chance that I promised. Here they come. So, still speaking of the EU, how much do the countries of the Western Balkans use the financial opportunities provided by the EU? And when speaking of the ecological transformation, what obligations are a part of this relationship of being able to use funds to support this process?
Well, I don't know the very concrete figures, but I
In
know...
numbers, I'm kidding.
The numbers.
Yeah.
But I know that not all the money is blown to the countries which could have been until now. That's sometimes a problem of the own sources who has to come in addition. It's sometimes also maybe a lack of having the right approach, the right experts on working on these projects. But let me tell you, I have nearly to read it to tell you something about the jungle of funds and funding, which is really a lot, meanwhile. It's not everything, but it can help if there is a clear plan or clear vision. We have the Green Deal as part of the economic and investment plan. You know, with all these flagships for renewable energy, flagship 5, transition from coal, renovation, waste and water managers. So this is all our projects we are thinking of or already planning can go in competition to get from this money. We have IPA 3, the proposal foresees a dedicated window of the programming framework for implementation of green agenda and sustainable connectivity. We have this multi-annual rural development program or programs under the instrument of pre-accession. We speak about sustainable culture, food production as a centerpiece of these IPAD funds. We have the Western Balkan investment framework by combining IPA and IFI loans, which can be used for growth funds, structured as public-private partnership, which will also play a very important role. to have business in the development, because all what we are planning is not only to higher costs, but also give new chances, new potential for investments, private investments as well, for intelligent companies. And let me put as a last thing, there is this Western Balkan guarantee facility, which can be used to increase, not to attract more private funding, especially in that region. So I think there are three things which are the most important in that case. The first is, I have 30 seconds more, no?
Okay,
You remember?
take it, go,
Good.
go, go.
The first is to sorry.
I put too much pressure on you, did I? Okay, take it.
No, but we have, first of all, we need really experienced staff, and we need also cooperation between the member states and the states here in the region to find really the ways how to do the projects, not because here all the people are sillies and we are so clever, but we have a bit more experience in that, and we can exchange that and cooperate on that. Second thing is, we are speaking about projects, and there are a lot cross-border projects which might be sensible. Why not to have one project with 2 countries and one project team going ahead and working on that? Could also be, I think, a good thing. And last but not least, in all this transition, you need a very clear and very powerful body which is dealing with anti-corruption.
Yeah.
Because it's much money in the field. And secondly, all these transition costs will lead to higher costs to business, and this to avoid. Sometimes business has quite good ideas, but not good for our people.
Thank you. Thank you very much for these answers. Such an important aspect you've mentioned in the end. Mr. Debrani, so we've heard that changes will happen in the industry sector as a part of this process. We've heard that some jobs will be necessarily endangered and that solutions must be found for these professions, these people, their families, their existential surrounding. But where does the opportunity for creating new jobs arise in this process?
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes, you can.
The technology is not with me sometimes. No, let me bring it down a little bit. I agree with all of the 3 other or 4 panelists on most of the things they say. Of course, for me, when it comes to workers' education, workers' wages, workers' conditions and so on, it's something that I have in my backbone. It's always, as a social democrat, it's not an issue for me. This is a thing that we always need to think about. And when we want to create new jobs, we need to create new jobs, of course, with these 3 things in mind. But also, when we create new jobs, we need to think that even it doesn't need to be a new thing. When we build a new road, how can we do that in terms of energy efficiency or in terms of with things that don't have low emission cement or whatever it is? While I'm talking about roads, I'm a man of a simpleness. We always talk about these bigger things, what can we do, what can we not do, and so on. I mean, if we look at the Western Balkans, we have a lot of things that we can do in the very easiest things. For example, the weather is nice, but you see no people bicycling around because there are no ways to take the cycle.
Yeah.
This is a simple thing. If you want to make sure that people don't take the car, pave the way. Tell them you can have the bicycle, here's a road for that, and so on. It's a simple thing, but we don't do it. So this is the smaller things that we often forget because we think in the bigger picture. Another thing that I'm thinking about is the cooperation. We talk about cooperation between countries and so on, but Prime Minister Kurti, and I also think the other ones talked about that. In terms of long-term relationship, companies, investments, and so on, we need to cooperate also with the other political parties in our countries. Otherwise, this will not work. I know it's hard, especially in the Balkans and so on, but this is not a thing that we can just neglect. We need to do it because all of these issues will not be solved today. They will probably be here for decades. So even though we sometimes have struggles with the others, this is a thing that we need cooperation with. And it's, for me, the most important one. Because if Prime Minister Zaev goes to Pristina, signs something, and then 2 weeks later someone else comes and that falls down. Hopefully that will never happen. You will be the ruler for this country for hundreds of years, I almost said. So don't worry about that. But it's really, really important that we do it in that way. I can stop there if you want.
Yes,
Did I answer your question? Because I see the 3
yes,
minutes.
I see you have not
dare.
answered my question, but like you have, okay, go with 15 more seconds. Where is the opportunity for new jobs in this process? Where is the opportunity to create new jobs through the process of ecological transformation?
I think the opportunity lies in what we see in front of us, in all of this simpleness, all of the things we want to do. Don't think what is the new jobs. We already have the jobs. We just need to do it in different ways. When it comes, both in when it comes to the workers, but also when it comes to the things we are using, manufacturing and so on. We need to think, what can we use so that we have lower emissions? And when we do that, we will create new jobs also because there is a new technology involved.
Thank you for answering my question, and thank you for everything else you've said. Mr. Kurti, okay, now a question which is really important. Next to everything we are speaking about, addressing the climate changes in the Western Balkans is often, not often, always, not perceived as a top priority question. We have often insecurities, instabilities, currently both in Kosovo and Bosnia and Herzegovina. Again, we share so much of the political dynamics. And the question of climate change is often perceived as, you know, for those who have like for the privileged ones. If you have a great job, if you have a lot of money, then you can go and like discuss the climate change a bit. People are not being able to identify with the topic because you are under a constant threat of political insecurity, instability. How do we manage to set the question of climate change on the daily agenda of the society? How do we include the society in this process? I saw the hand again.
I believe that in recent years, there has been a certain shift in Europe when it comes to political orientation of middle class. There has been a shift of considerable number of voters from social democratic parties towards green parties. And this happened particularly among the ranks of the middle class. But I believe that things are changing back now, where we see that social issues and green agenda cannot be separated from each other. That's why you cannot be environmentally friendly without being socially friendly. On the other hand, you cannot do only class analysis without taking into consideration environmental impact. So that's why this forum, this event is right spot on when it comes to social issues and green agenda. But I think that in recent years, we have seen a certain pendulum regarding the voters of the middle class, not only in Germany, it happened all over Europe, also in our countries. There is a rising awareness and concern about environmental issues, but I believe that at the same time, to this awareness, there is this other consciousness of linking the two. That's why on my speech I emphasized the fact that we need a strong social floor of our home and a solid environmental roof. If we lose the roof, we are not going to have anymore our home, because there is no home without roof. And if we lose the social floor, we will fall in the basement. We will not be able to live in our home. So we need both. And when you need both, situation is not simple. You don't have simple answers. It is complex, it is hard, but at the same time, it is challenging, and we should go for it.
As you said at the beginning, some things need to be done because they're hard, not because they're easy. Knut, you had a comment? Just briefly, please.
Yes, I think it's so important for us that we really be honest to the people. First of all, we need education. Education, that people understand what we are talking about. My daughter yesterday went to one of these Friday for Future demonstrations. 20,000 people in Hamburg. When she came back, she sent me a message, it was great. And what about our next holidays? And she would so much love to go once on a cruise ship. You know these cruise ships, these big ones, when they come to the port of Hamburg, where I'm coming from, they have the same pollution than 30,000 cars at the same time, as long as they are in the port. So we have also to be honest to the people and say, some of our nice hobbies we should think about. Do we really have to fly short term? Is it really right that the flight is only costing 30 euros? We know it must be more. Is it right? And so on and so on. And if we do so, always we have to answer the question, okay, what you are telling is nice, sounds good, but that means the poorer people should stay at home and the richer one take the flight to holidays when it gets more expensive. And this is also something we have to debate with us, because we don't want to exclude from all the goodies in the world those who have not so much money, but on the other hand, we know we really live on the costs of our grandchild. So how to manage this? It's not really answered by Social Democrats until now, and up to the end, and we have to continue this debate, how to deal with it.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Shortly and briefly, please, Mr. Zaev, because before we switch to the country representative perspectives, how important is the regional cooperation in this process? You are often being identified as one of the regional leaders, which sometimes is more of a burden than an honor. But in this context, when we think of the region of the Western Balkans, it's a region with so many nature potentials. When you allow yourself to think even further, we could be the leaders in this process. But how important is and do you think this is a topic that could bring together all the leaders inside the region? But short.
For me, it's very important. Why? Because we're small countries, even region is very small.
Yeah.
In this global competition, if we are smart to be together, I think that will bring a benefit to our citizens. For example, if we negotiate with one of the regional biggest producer of liquid natural gas, Qatar, for example. It's ownership of United States and Qatarian businessmen. If we buy quantities for all countries, for example, there will be lower prices than if we go alone. I only give example. We are really connected. Our grids, transmission grids for energy, it's connected. North Macedonia is connected with Kosovo, with Serbia, with Bulgaria, with Greece and Albania. Now we build it with Albania. But that shows how even Europe is small. very often we talk that we are island inside of European Union, and really one of the beautiful islands what European Union have.
The most beautiful, please.
Yes.
Yeah.
And in this direction, now it's having fear if Afghanistan refugees will come, we need to be partners with European Union. We are together. If it's grid connection for energy, how the energy, I don't know, from Italy will go to Bulgaria and Romania without us. Or I don't know, from Slovenia and Croatia to go in Greece. We are part of that. All that show that we are connected. But we are still one of the regions in the European continent. If we are together, we can be more attractive, more competitive for the other regions, for the Western Europe, Northern Europe, Eastern Europe, etc. And that is good always to develop a common strategy of the region in every issue. In this direction, you know, there is a debate now why Albin Kurti, Edi Rama, and Zoran Zaev offered to Americans help for Afghanistan. Probably because we are social democrats. Probably, I
Might
don't know.
be, yes.
Our feeling to help humanity, solidarity, that is part of our work and our minds and our characters. But in this direction, I believe very much that the regional cooperation is invitation for all of us. Albin, no, we talk a lot for energy connection, we talk a lot of economic connection, but also social aspects of all of that. Because for Edi Rama, for example, it's easier. They have it a lot of hydrocentral. We in Kosovo have a lot of coal. Serbia have a lot of coal also. Bosnia and Herzegovina have good rivers and potential. Montenegro also, they have it half and half, for example. So that put us, Kosovo and North Macedonia, really to be very much dedicated in this energy transition period. And I believe very much that will be a successful process for all of us, but will be even more if we are together in this mission.
Yes, amazing, thank you. Please keep your seats. Now we will be hearing the comments on country perspectives of the representatives of the countries of the Western Balkans. I would first like to invite Romina Koko, a Secretary of Foreign Affairs from the Socialist Party of Albania, to join us here on stage. Okay, thank you. Ms. Koko, please take the stand and try to keep your statement in the limited time, and tell us, when we are speaking of the clean and green future for everyone, is there a general benefits that citizens have from the EU Green Deal? Because the ecological change we are speaking of, as we've said multiple times, means a social change as well.
Thank you very much. Honored Prime Ministers, Mr. Zaev, thank you for the invitation. Mr. Fleckenstein, thank you very much for your inputs. Dear ladies and gentlemen, representatives, I greet you on behalf of the Socialist Party of Albania, and I think that this is indeed a very needed forum so that we start a discussion regarding a very specific topic which impacts our citizens, but also the policies that our countries are going to have in the future. While you were thinking about the Agenda 2050, one of the ideas I had in my mind and made a calculation was that the 1990 is further in history than the 2050. So the 2050 is closer to us, and it looks like a very futuristic date, but actually it's not that far. So we definitely have to start to think in terms of future and future generations. Albania has made a lot of progress in terms of the green energy. We have the laws settled, we have the strategies, we have, of course, the local government, which has a decentralized function regarding the environmental aspect, the waste management, and the way the policies are enhanced. We have the councils for environment in every city council of Albania, which creates a link between the central policies, and also the implementation and the democracy that we discussed with the citizens, the education. However, it's really important that we align our policies in the region because we are, I would say, blessed to share the same nature in the Balkans, to share the same resources such as rivers, and also the climate, which means that an impact or a small mistake or a big mistake in environment can have an impact on the other country. So yesterday actually we were having a discussion on starting a conversation also in terms of political ideology, which is definitely then translated into vision and a political alignment. We have a process of the acquis communautaire of aligning our legislation and policies regarding all the chapters, and Albania is working really hard into aligning these chapters. Hopefully we will need an impulse also from the European Union in order to start the negotiation process and the discussions. It looks like a topic that is discussed for many, many years, and a discussion that we're having over and over again. Some people say it's wishful thinking, but in our opinion, it's not a wishful thinking. It's an impulse that our countries will need so that we, of course, align our policies in the region, but we definitely align our policies with the European Union. And finally, the region is interconnected with the final destination, which is the Green Deal, the Green Agenda, and all the progressive policies. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Koka. Thank you. Now we will be having Mr. Ivan Vukovic, who is the Vice President of the Democratic Party of Socialists of Montenegro, joining us here on stage. Mr. Vukovic, we will be hearing the perspective of Montenegro. I'm also interested in what models do you think that the Social Democrats should prefer in this process of energy transformation, and what kind of models would guarantee security for the social aspect of the story we spoke about?
Well, first of all, let me thank you for the invitation to participate in this very important conference. I'm here on behalf of the Democratic Party of Socialists, which is the biggest party in Montenegro, and in addition to that, I've been a mayor of Podgorica, which is the capital city of Montenegro, for the last 3 years. So I'll try to provide some sort of an input, from both sides. I'd like to thank the organizers. I must say that things that we've heard thus far are very inspiring, and they show that no matter how the world perceives this part of Europe, we do think seriously about the future challenges, and we do take into consideration both ecological and social aspect of the topic that brought us together. Recently, a few days ago actually, we marked the 30th anniversary of the proclamation of Montenegro as an ecological state. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with this fact, but 30 years ago we decided to self-proclaim Montenegro as the first ecological state in the world. I'm not sure how far we've come in this way. I would say that we have fallen short of this ambitious goal. But having said that, I would also like to say that we have accomplished a lot. Not only us in Montenegro, but I think throughout the Western Balkans you see the concrete results of the progress that we made in this field. I could go on and on, listing the projects such as the first wind farms that we have in Montenegro, the big solar plant that is currently being prepared for construction at the southern part of Montenegro, numerous mini hydro plants, some of which did, some of which did not, unfortunately, meet the ecological standards, and the gradual transformation from using fossil fuels, first and foremost coal, because we do have this large coal plant in the northern part of Montenegro, and most of the energy that we produce in Montenegro still comes from this particular source. Another thing to have in mind, something that happened 2 years ago, which I consider extremely important, not only for Montenegro, but for the rest of the Western Balkans as a whole, is the project of the submarine cable, like interconnection between Italy and Montenegro. So we've managed to build this 423-kilometer long cable connecting Montenegro with Italy. The value of this project was 1.1 billion euros. And it pretty much allows for all the energy that we produce in Montenegro, the Western Balkans, to be exported to Italy and further to the Western markets. So that has certainly given a strong impetus to those who would like to, try on in the market, an energy market, and to implement new technologies. So I think when it comes to infrastructure, when it comes to concrete accomplishments, we've done a lot. But why did I say that we have fallen short of the expectations? I think because of the level of kind of consciousness and awareness of the importance of these topics, as some of the panelists mentioned today, and including Knut in his last remark. I think we need to work much more in order to explain to the people, especially the young generation, how important this is, and at the same time, as social democrats and people who have political responsibilities, to make sure that that does not hurt common people, that we need to be creative and find a way to make use of these new technologies so that people could actually do better as a result. I have in mind something that the administration of the former American president Obama did with using renewables. It had been taboo for a very long time, but they showed that it could actually be profitable, and it resulted in the increase of the percentage of energy that is produced from renewable sources. So if we bring the two together, which I'm absolutely sure we can, and if we win popular support, then the Western Balkan region could actually, as Prime Minister Zaev, be a shining example in this regard.
Thank you very much for your statement. I would like to invite Mr. Ivan Vujovic to join us on stage as well, who is the Secretary General of Social Democratic Party of Montenegro. We have heard a part of the perspective when it comes to the Montenegro's path towards ecological transformation. Well, in addition to whatever you might want to add to what we've heard, my question for you is, how much does the turbulent political everyday narrative leave room? How much room does it leave for these topics to be put into public space?
That is a very good question, and unfortunately, mostly due to some, in my opinion, negative political processes that are taking place since last August and the last parliamentary elections in Montenegro, I think that these agendas and these topics and issues that is very, very much and more visible at the European and world and global level is not so present in Montenegro. I will not say that such issues have been so much present in the context of what the political actors were doing in Montenegro, but I think that I can say that things are deteriorating in the last year, as you said, because some, let's say, basic ordinary challenges that we have been facing in the recent past and that we thought we have completed is now again on the political and social agenda in Montenegro. That is some kind of the factor, of the element that is stopping us from dealing with these issues in a way that it really deserves to. But I think we can all see that this agenda at the level of European Union, at the level of United Nations, is becoming more and more present and visible. at European, at world stage also, and I think it's more than justified because we are facing concrete problems with regard to many environmental issues, with air pollution. I think that situation in the Western Balkans, there are some figures that I also read about it, is a very worrying one. Is very worrying one. I read one figure, for example, that 18 thermoenergetic plants in the Western Balkans is producing 2.5 times more air pollution, more sulfur dioxide than something about more than 200 thermoenergetic plants in European Union. And this is really big alarm for all of us. And I would be very, I agree totally with what Knut said today, that regardless of our political and social divisions in our country, we have to do everything to build a kind of national consensus about these issues. A few days ago in Montenegro, that is maybe one small step forward, we built, or has been built in Montenegrin parliament, a kind of green caucus consisting of members of parliament and members of different political parties. As my colleague, Mr. Vukovic, said, we in Montenegro have this kind of specificum that we proclaimed the ecological state 30 years ago, and these days there was an anniversary of this proclamation of ecological state. So it is a kind of possibility for all of us to push forward this agenda, and I think that it's very, very much important that we as a progressive, as social democratic family, and FES as our political foundation, puts this issue more and more high at our political and parties agenda. And I think that as social democrats have been always the most progressive European political forces and all parties belonging to our family, I think that this issue, what we are discussing today, is one element that have to be part of our progressive agenda, because it is something that impacts all of us equally, not just on the level of each state, not just at the level of EU, but there are no borders, when it comes to issue of air pollution, when it comes to issues of environmental protection. We don't have divisions, we cannot put borders between our states and between air of all our states. So that's why I think we have to focus more on that, and I really rely on both PES, PIC, regional family parties, and FES that this today, what is going on, to be just one for the beginning of many other events and many other activities that will be focusing on these issues.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vujovic. A great idea. I would like to invite Ms. Dragana Rakic, who is Vice President of Democratic Party of Serbia, to also make a statement on the perspective on Serbia, and also address the issue of the importance of how democratic a country is as something that is an important precondition for fulfilling all the goals. Please stick to the time. Thank you.
Dobar dan, drage socijaldemokratkinje i socijaldemokrate. Hvala vam na prilici da vam se danas obratim u ime Demokratske stranke. Srbija, kao i čitav region, suočava se sa mnogobrojnim izazovima, a jedan od gorućih problema svakako jeste zagađenje životne sredine i mnogobrojne negativne posledice koje to donosi. U Srbiji je stanje dodatno složeno, jer državom upravlja organizovani kriminal koji onemogućava da se bilo koji društveni problem reši uspešno i na korist građana Srbije. Nikada se u istoriji Srbije nije desilo ono što se upravo ovih dana i prethodnih 9 godina dešava, to je da su ljudi iz vrha vlasti tako otvoreno povezani da sarađuju sa kriminalom. Iz izveštaja Evropske komisije Freedom House, Reportera bez granica i ostalih relevantnih međunarodnih organizacija možete da saznate da u Srbiji nema vladavine prava, da se krše ljudske i manjinske slobode, da institucije ne funkcionišu, da nema slobodnih medija, da nema uslova za održavanje slobodnih i poštenih izbora i da nema nikakvog napretka na putu Srbije ka Evropskoj uniji, pa tako nema ni napretka ka rešavanju nagomilanih problema iz oblasti zaštite životne sredine. Širom Zapadnog Balkana i Srbije nivo zagađenog vazduha, zemljišta, površinskih voda je veoma visok. Uticaj alarmantnog nivoa zagađenja na zdravlje stanovnika ovih zemalja je značajan. Zagađenje, pre svega, treba da se sagleda iz perspektive uticaja na zdravlje, ali je važno i da se sagleda mogući uticaj na socijalno-ekonomsku perspektivu stanovnika. To se naročito odnosi na regione koji su karakteristični po eksploataciji uglja. U Srbiji postoje takvi regioni u kojima gotovo većina stanovnika radi u energetskom sektoru, u industriji uglja. U Republici Srbiji 70% električne energije još uvek dobijamo iz termoelektrana na ugalj. Termoelektrane koje za svoj rad sagorevaju ugalj su prepoznate kao najveći zagađivači, posebno vazduha. Trenutna vlast u Srbiji planira izgradnju novih termoelektrana sa opravdanjem da su postojeća postrojenja dotrajala i da ih treba zameniti savremenim koje imaju manju emisiju štetnih gasova. To svakako nije dobar način da smanjimo emisije i da se krene sa procesom energetske tranzicije, kako bi mogli da pratimo ostatak Evrope. Srbija i uopšte zemlje Zapadnog Balkana su onako kako su to utvrdili eksperti, biće teritorija koja će u narednim godinama biti veoma pogođena klimatskim promenama. Već smo sada u prilici da tome svedočimo, tako da imate situaciju da se smenjuju periodi izuzetno toplih vremenskih intervala koji donose velike sušne periode sa periodima velikih i obilnih padavina koji izazivaju velike ekstremne poplave, kakva je bila situacija u Srbiji tokom 2014. godine. Zemlje Zapadnog Balkana, pa i Republika Srbija, su istovremeno i zemlje koje se u proizvodnji energije uglavnom oslanjaju na ugalj, to jest na termoelektrane. U skladu sa preuzetim međunarodnim obavezama, kao i zelenom agendom za Zapadni Balkan, a u vezi sa smanjenjem emisija gasova, staklene bašte, neophodno je da se nadležne institucije i ministarstva da krenu u izradu integrisanog energetskog i klimatskog plana koji će sadržavati nacionalne ciljeve u smislu dekarbonizacije, obnovljivih izvora energije, energetske efikasnosti i energetske sigurnosti. Taj posao mora biti javan. Javnost treba da se uključi u najranijoj fazi izrade plana kako bi se postigao društveni konsenzus oko ovog izuzetno značajnog pitanja. Neophodno je uključiti profesionalce iz ove oblasti, civilno društvo, privredu, sindikate, lokalne samouprave, kako bi se plan izradio u skladu sa potrebama društva i načelima održivog razvoja. Srbija je potpisivanjem zelene agende za Zapadni Balkan potvrdila svoju obavezu ka ciljevima klimatski neutralne Evrope do 2050. godine. Time je načelno potvrdila i svoju posvećenost daljim zajedničkom radu na dekarbonizaciji energetskog sektora sa Evropskom unijom i partnerima sa Zapadnog Balkana. Srbija se obavezala da usklađuje svoje javno-političke ciljeve sa ciljevima Evropske unije potpisivanjem nekoliko međunarodnih sporazuma. Sporazum o stabilizaciji i pridruživanju, Pariski sporazum, Ugovor o osnivanju energetske zajednice, Zelenu agendu za Zapadni Balkan, Arhusku konvenciju.
Molim vas samo da...
Smatramo da je Vlada Srbije u obavezi da što hitnije donese plan za gašanje termoelektrana koje koriste ugalj i prelazak na obnovljive izvore. Donošenjem plana omogućava se da postupak tranzicije bude pravedan, da se pripreme alternativna i adekvatna rešenja za nova radna mesta, za zaposlene u industriji uglja i tako dalje, o čemu je već bilo reči. Ovo su samo neki od izazova koji se nalaze pred Srbijom. Nažalost, nije se odmaklo u njihovom rešavanju. Kao što sam već napomenula, problem je visoki nivo korupcije, zarobljene institucije i to je razlog zašto mi još uvek nismo u mogućnosti da pratimo svetske trendove u energetskoj tranziciji ka obnovljivim izvorima energije. Problemi iz oblasti zaštite moći će uspešno da se rešavaju tek kada dođe do smene aktuelnog autokratskog kriminalnog režima i zato je važno da se građani Srbije što pre izbore za slobodne i poštene izbore koji nas očekuju u aprilu 2022. godine. Na tom putu će nam mnogo značiti podrška socijaldemokratskih partija iz regiona i iz čitave Evrope. Ja vas pozivam da budete podrška građanima Srbije u njihovoj borbi za normalan, dostojanstven i zdrav život. Želim vam dobro zdravlje pre svega i da nikad ne odustanemo od menjanja sveta na bolje. Živeli!
Hvala vam. Thank you. Thank you very much. I would like to invite Mr. Irfan Cengic now, who is the member of the Federal Parliament of Bosnia and Herzegovina, coming from the Social Democratic Party. Irfan will give us the perspective of Bosnia and Herzegovina while also addressing the question of the importance of the involvement of European Union in this process, and should the European Union be more present is an answer I'm expecting. Thank you, Irfan.
Thank you, Hannah. Thank you for the invitation. It's always a pleasure to come North Macedonia and see progress of Prime Minister Zaev and his government, and I'm a little bit jealous of your progress. Social Democrats have the biggest responsibility, like Knut already said. In one hand, you have business and right policy conservatives, it's all about money, and on the other hand, you have green parties, it's all about ecology. And only Social Democrats have also ecology and works and jobs. That is important because I come from Bosnia, and we have 70% of our electricity and energy is from coal plants. And we produce that energy for 40 euros. We give that energy to our people for 30 euros. And price of energy, electric energy, is around 100 euros. So with process of decarbonization, we will lose some of our job. We will lose of our energy independence. And also, probably we will have much higher price of electricity for our people. But we have no choice. We must go with decarbonization. We promised that. We have signed all agreements, and that is our future. But we need help from the EU. We need help with projects of renewable energy, especially with solar and wind energy. We need cooperation with trade unions, and we need plans for our workers, especially in infrastructure, and maybe that is answer where we can new jobs create. Infrastructure, because miners who work in the coal thermal plant and everything can work also in our building highway and similar projects. And we need subventions for our price for poor people in our country for electricity energy, because they cannot pay a much higher price of electricity. And in the end, we need education. Like Knut already said, we are politicians, we need votes. And when I talk in Bosnia about Green Deal, energy, thermal plants, coal, people don't understand me. And they don't want to listen to me. And we need EU to help us to educate people in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Germany is leading country of EU. And our, I hope so, future Chancellor Olaf Scholz, addressing the one meeting about climate neutral economy, said that we must that goal attacked together with workers and business. And we need modernization of industry together with trade unions, because job stand workers and are priorities in our fair transition. And that is what exactly I expect from EU in Bosnia and Herzegovina. I expect that we have fair transition, because we need that because of our family and friends and parents who work today, and because of our children and our future. Thank you.
Thank you, Irfan. Thank you. Okay, just in time. So we stole 10 minutes out of the coffee break, and I claim full responsibility for this. So I will ask you now to, we will take 2 questions and try to answer. I will actually now give the full responsibility for the answers to Mr. Zaev and Mr. Kurti to answer these questions in your closing statements. So can we have hands of those who would like to ask a question regarding the topic we have just discussed? Or have we covered? Oh, there's a hand in the middle. Yes, we see you. The microphone is approaching, and please make it a short question, if possible. It must be possible, yes. Thank you.
Благодаря много. Ljubčo Timov, ja sam ekspert za energetska efikasnost i obnovljivi izvori. Две кратки прашања до премиерот Заев. Премиере, амбициозните проекти кои што ги кажавте од аспектот на енергетската транзиција, дали не се доволен предизвик или потребен услов, конечно и во на организацијски план да направиме Министерство за клима и енергија, нешто со кое треба да се споредиме и со регионот, а уште повеќе со Европа, и го сметам за потребен услов за да ги реализираме така како што треба сите овие планови. И второто прашање е, на локално ниво се префрла еден голем товар кој што мора да оди паралелно, а тоа е потенцијалот на спроведувањето на проекти за енергетска ефикасност, кое што е голем потенцијал и за зелената економија на локално ниво, но и за младиот наш кадар, кој што од овие области, кои што се почесто и повеќе го гледам во европските држави. Какви се вашите размислувања за тоа? Благодарам.
Thank you very much for your question. It is obviously addressed to Prime Minister Zaev. Do we have another question? We are able, there is a hand like in the, can we have the microphone, excuse me, can we have the microphone in the left area of the, oh, we have it, great.
Yes, can you hear me? Excellent.
Yes.
A question for both Mr. Zaev and Mr. Kurti. You've said a lot of great things about the green agenda for the Western Balkans. I'm Ivan, my name is Ivan, I come from Croatia. And I have a question as a young person, because you've all mentioned young people that you are doing this for the future generations, and I'm grateful for that, but this whole green transition also has its social dimension. I mean, we also have to be prepared for these new green jobs, and can you please share us your plan, maybe how can you promote these new green jobs to people who are younger than I am, I mean much younger than I am, who are now still in high school, who are still in universities. How will you inspire people to take green jobs, not just only in the industry, but also in the creative economy, such as our wonderful interpreters up there who are using their knowledge to bring us non-material good in forms of their translation. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your question as well. I will just remind the people who are watching us through Zoom that if you have wrote any questions or gave any comments, we will make sure that you get the answers during the day or during the following panels. So let's go with the closing statements, which will please contain the answers to the questions we've just heard, but also a general comment to everything that we've heard today. Mr. Kurti, would you like to begin?
We need closely to work with European Union, bearing in mind that we should have both EU funds and EU values at the same time. I believe that there should be no funds without values, but at the same time, not only EU values without EU funds, because we need to catch up, we need to move forward faster. And as Mr. Fleckenstein put it, I believe that education is crucial. We need that in our education system, within our curriculums, to bring in the awareness for climate change, for concerns for the environment of all sorts, because it has to do with our generation and the next one as well. Therefore, I believe that education system cannot remain the same when it comes to climate change. And in close cooperation with EU, we believe that we can together achieve this goal. In particular, we count a lot on those who already entered EU, but in recent times, including Croatia, to help Western Balkans 6 to accelerate in its European path, including the social and environmental issues. again, I believe that there is a rising awareness also in EU that these two issues are very much linked. Therefore, one cannot go without the other. What I oppose is a certain irony or cynicism that also in EU there are certain problems, therefore we shouldn't be minding. I think that we should stick to values and to principles, also check facts on the ground and our interests, but not fall in the cynical trap where you say that since this country has this much coal, we should abandon altogether phasing out coal. I believe it is very important to have as a clear goal, as a vision, environmentally friendly methods of both energy production and consumption, and not to get cynical because integration into EU is being delayed. I think it's an injustice that Western Balkans 6 is not moving faster towards EU. It has to do a lot with EU issues. But on the other hand, we should not fall into a kind of bitterness and cynical mood towards EU.
Great, thank you very much, Mr. Kurti, amazing. Mr. Zaev.
I agree completely with Albin. Really, beside together also with help with the European Union, we can create a lot of quality jobs, especially for young people. But even now, the engineer for photovoltaic or windmills take a salary 1,500 euro to 2,000 euro. It's very attractive and will be more and more. And generally, energetic engineers are well paid. So in this direction, all other activities connected with renewable energies can be very creative, and especially using of all these potentials of balancing public enterprises, etc., will have possibility to create a lot of jobs, which can be subsidized or substituted with those who will lose it during the closing the coal factories. For Ljupcho, two questions. First of all, if we have in mind that we have 3 blocks in Bitola per 210 megawatts and 1 block in Oslomej 110 megawatts, altogether that is 750 megawatt, not more. We talk about 1,600 megawatts photovoltaics and 600 megawatt windmills, only what is signed now and is under construction or put in use. So that means that the energy production will be higher and higher here in North Macedonia. And of course, for me, it's a good reason to start thinking about the Ministry for Energy. But of course, it's an open debate, and I hope that in the future there will be more support for that. And for the second question about local self-governments, municipalities, yes, they are very important part of all this energy transition process, not because of a lot of permits for building for photovoltaics, windmills will be given by the mayors and local councils, but energy efficiency especially will be very important, because not only investment in renewables but also saving energy is very important. So we must do that as much as possible in schools, in kindergartens, I don't know, in the local enterprises and other institutions, hospitals who are under competence of the local self-government. And in this direction, of course, it's important the activities of the mayors and local councils. North Macedonia and Kosovo have elections in 17th of October. So that is not only need that Social Democrats must be oriented for renewables and social aspects of keeping jobs, taking care about jobs, but we need to continuing to win elections. now especially local elections, because that is also our obligation if we want to keep this socio-ecological agenda, what is one of the priority of every citizen. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Zaev. Thank you for all your contributions. I will take just 30 more seconds to switch to a perspective of a young person living in the Western Balkans. I promise I'm young. We need to see that the region can move forward. We need to see that the region can work together. We need to see political leaders who are ready to take the initiative and show us that changes can be done. We need to see political leaders who will care not only about the investments, but of people and the social categories, different social categories inside the population. So I'm sure that this is an encouragement for all of you present here today to be those people and to give hope to the younger generations. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for everything you've said. We will be having the coffee break in the white tent where the reception was held last night, perhaps 20 minutes because we stole the time for the session. And we will see you at the second panel soonly. Thank you.